All right, I'm on a virtual conference this weekend, and I've sat on a handful of them ever since everything got shifted to virtual. And so I wanted to take a moment to lay out the four keys that I've seen to make virtual conferences rock. So we're going to get into it. The first thing is the conversation between speed networking and virtual speed networking and group breakout rooms. Done both now. Virtual speed networking sounds like a great fix for the days of old that we all miss, where we could go to happy hours and hop around and meet people pretty quick. But it's honestly just clunky and awkward, and usually we don't have the opportunities in them to really get into deep discussions or build great connections. What I've seen now is group breakout rooms. Zoom has a function for this, and I'm sure the other platforms have something similar. Um, if you take a group of 20 strangers and plop them into a room, you're going to have a few people that have great stories and experience to share, and you're going to have a few that just want to sit back and take it all in. But ultimately, everybody gets a great experience and can take away a lot of value from the discussion that happens.
On stages
So
the world.
the second part of this is building an interactive experience. And the first step to that, I think, is just trying to break up the monotony of sitting through 2+ hours of continuous video, because everybody going there is there to pay attention, but we all need help. I know I do, so I'm guessing that others probably do as well. One great way to do this is by using polls, and you can spice things up by creating an incentive for whichever attendee ends up with the most points from the polls at the end of the conference. They get a prize. Another way to do it is by fielding questions to the audience during your sessions. Because this, usually if you have a chat box, then this will end up filling up the chat box. A lot of short answers, but you'll get a few people who use a lot of detail to share insights that everybody will find really valuable and are complementary to whatever the speaker is talking about. Or you can flip it and ask for questions for the host. And I think that this is a really great way for the audience to be able to engage directly with the conversation that's happening. You can go through and have a team member pick like the top 2 or 3 questions that are asked, and then address those on your feed. Alternatively, and I think it was a conference hosted by Aircall earlier in the summer, and they had a panel, and what they did is the same thing. They asked the audience for questions, but then they picked the top couple of attendees' questions and then actually brought them into the live stream and answered their questions directly. And that was phenomenal. If you can do that, that is probably the best way to get everybody actually interacting with your virtual conference. The third key that I've seen now at Emerge 2020, hosted by the Association for Accounting Marketing, is Scavenger Hunt. So this lets you set up a points-based reward system and competition, and there's apps that you can use to run it, like Scavify. And this way, you can reward engagement with your sponsors, because we can't control the floor plan at conferences now when they're virtual. So getting to people to go and actually look through the sponsors' materials is actually pretty difficult. But what the Scavenger Hunt does is you can put tasks in there for people to find specific pieces of information to answer that part of the scavenger hunt, or QR codes, or some kind of Easter egg in the sponsor's downloadable material. You can also boost session engagement by putting in questions about what your session hosts are going to be wearing, or something that they've said they're going to talk about during their time slot. And this just gives people another reason to be switched on and like actually consuming or paying attention to what's being said for the whole time. Um, and then the final bonus to this is to drive social media exposure for your virtual conference, because then people go and can be incentivized to do things like what I'm doing right now and use your hashtag to share a post. Now, the final point, the fourth point that I've noticed, not really so much an answer from my end as a question for everybody else. What do you think about live discussions versus pre-recorded video? Or maybe it should be a mix. Live discussions, without a doubt, are more authentic and engaging and interactive, and it's a lot easier to use the rest of the tactics that I've gone over here. But sometimes hosts still have video lag, or yeah, I saw somebody's power went out, and that was kind of threw a kink in the hose. So the a bonus to pre-recorded video is it sits in the cloud, and you know that it's going to be a consistent experience for everybody. But it's just like watching a talking head on a TV or something. It's a lot harder to have the engagement that way. So I'd be curious to hear what everybody else thinks about that point. You know, should it be live, or should it be pre-recorded, or should it be a mix of the two?